Good evening, everyone. To start tonight with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we live, work, and gather on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people, specifically the Temiskaming First Nation. We recognize the presence of the Temiskaming First Nation in our community since time immemorial and honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift their voice and values. Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. All members are present with the exception of Councillor Foley and Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. And approval of the agenda. Be it resolved that City Council approves the agenda as printed. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Peltier-Levin. And the second by Danny Whalen. Thank you. All in favor? Motion's carried. In a declaration of special council meeting, draft resolution, be it resolved that Council of the City of Temiskaming Shores declares this meeting a special meeting of Council in accordance to Section 7 of the Procedural Bylaw number 2008-160. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Graydon. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Ducharme. All in favor? That motion is carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature?
Thank you. We do have one disclosure tonight from Councillor Ducharme. She has declared on subject matter Pavilion Women's Centre flag and proclamation, items 6A and 7A on tonight's agenda, as she is employed as senior management role at the Pavilion Women's Centre and sit on the board of the Association of the Interval Transition Houses, provincial coordinator of the Wrapped Up Encourage campaign.
Thank you. Is there any other declarations? Thank you. We'll move on to item 6, communication. And 6A, Kayla Donnell Martel, Residential Program Coordinator and Counselor at the Pavilion Women's Centre, and the request for proclamation and flag raising. And that motion will be presented under new business. And be it resolved that City Council agrees to deal with communication item 10A according to the agenda of references. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Whalen. Seconder? Councillor Peltier. All in favor? That motion is carried. And item 7, under new business, a proclamation, International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, November 25th, 2022. Whereas violence continues to be the greatest gender inequality rights issue for women, girls, and gender diverse individuals. And whereas November is Women Abuse Prevention Month, and whereas gender-based violence is a human rights issue which our community must work together to address, prevent and address through public awareness and education. And whereas 1 in 3 women will experience gender-based violence in their lifetime, and these numbers increase exponentially for Black, Indigenous, and women of color. And whereas COVID-19 pandemic has increased barriers to support and services for survivors of gender-based violence and their children. And whereas last year in Ontario, every 13 days, a woman or child was killed by a man known to them, with the majority being their current or former intimate partner. And whereas this month and throughout the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, we acknowledge our community's support of the Wrapped Encourage campaign and commitment to ending gender-based violence. And whereas on November the 25th, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, a Wrapped Encourage 2022 campaign flag will be raised in recognition that the courage of a woman alone is not enough. It takes an entire community to end gender-based violence. And now, therefore, be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby proclaims and declares that November 25th, 2022 shall be known as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and urge all citizens to recognize this day by taking action to support survivors of gender-based violence and becoming part of Ontario-wide efforts to end gender-based violence. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Green. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Foley. Discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. In closed session, be it resolved, the Council agrees to convene in closed session at 6:05. Can I get a mover? Yeah. And a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Ducharme. All in favor? Carried. And under section 239(3.1, the meeting is held for the purpose of educating and training the members, council training session. Thanks. Okay, we are